Good morning. It is Wednesday today, and welcome to Saba's Way of Life. And I have to say, I really appreciate everything farmers do, and I can imagine this must be one of the busiest times of year when it comes to growing and harvesting and land, because I just haven't stopped for 3 days. So I'm going to share quite a lot with you. I'm going to share the lemon pickling with you, just the thinking behind it and how I do it. And I'm going to share a few things in the garden with you, just share a couple of things in terms of my hens have gone and the reasons why, and I'll expand upon that in another video. And then I want to talk to you a little bit about frequency. It's been on my mind a lot to share this with you, and whether or not I remember it all is a different thing. You will find those of you that sleep with the circadian rhythm at night at the right time when the sun goes down, and then wake up with the sun without an alarm, that insights come straight into your mind when you're still in that half sleep mode. And it happens to me every single morning, well, the majority of mornings. Oh, I've got to share that, I've got to share that, I've got to share that. And then my thinking mind kicks in. I'm out of that really magical state where I'm just connected to source. I'm connected to source all the time. I'm going to talk about frequency in a minute, but it's a very acute connection because you're coming out of that sleep state. I don't know what it is scientifically, and I'm not interested. All I'm trying to say is that time of the morning when you wake up naturally, the thoughts that come into your mind within the first 10 minutes are really very magical. Most of the time, if you're operating from that frequency and you have a pure state of mind and body. It's very difficult to explain. It's experienced. Okay, I'm going to go into the kitchen now. It is an absolute chaos here, but it's okay. I don't mind, because I don't want to spend time tidying things up when I'm doing things. And I know it will be like this for this week, certainly for this week. So let's start with the lemons. These are the tiny, in fact, you could argue that they're limes. Look, they're kind of green. They're Indian limes, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody knows better. These are Indian limes, and these are generally only available here where I live in East Berkshire from Indian shops, Indian greengrocers. But they are, I call them, they don't look very yellow in the video, but they are yellow. I promise you, they're very, very bright yellow. Maybe I've got to change the settings. But anyway, these are bright yellow, and these are great for pickling. Now, this is what I'm going to do. My mum, she shared with me what my nanny used to do. And they used to do it in a clay pot. They call them a matka, in a clay pot. I don't have this big clay pot to do that in. I'm going to do it in a jar, which I'm going to preserve. And last week, what happened, did these as my mother had instructed. And what I'd done is washed them, dried them, which I've done. And then I pricked them with little sticks. You know, you can get those toothpicks. Here they are. Here, these kind of toothpicks. And I'd prick them all over. And I'd put lots of salt in the jar. I've used Himalayan rock salt. You can use sea salt. You don't want to use commercial salt. It's not salt. It's a salt-like substance, citric acid or whatever they call it. You want to get real salt. And arguably, the salt here, which is Himalayan coarse pink salt, is probably not as bad as citric acid, but probably doesn't have the minerals in that the mountainous areas of the Himalayas, and in certain parts of North Pakistan where they have the most incredible salt mountains, just scrape it off. they don't have the proper mineral content, but you do the best you can. You know, I don't get fixated on, oh, it's wrong salt, where do I get it? If I come across some good quality sea salt somewhere, and there are plenty of people who've sent me links, fine. But you know what? I haven't done it yet, and I'm still pretty alive and pretty well in my health. And so are my parents, who are probably a better example, who are 89 and 79 years old. So, and still doing everything despite certain age issues, which all down to stress of living here. But generally speaking, for the better part of it, they're doing really well. So what my mother had said was, so put these little holes in and then stuff them into and they'll leave salt, they leave their own salt, but you have to stuff them in really, you have to pack them in so they're tightly knit together. And that's hard to do when they're round. It might be easier to do in a clay pot. So I've checked Mum's, and she said she's not particularly happy with it, and she's going to turn it into some kind of pickle rather than just pickled lemons. She's going to add and turn it into a pickle. I'm going to try it a different way. I did a little bit of research on the internet and looked at how others do it around the Mediterranean. And what I'm going to do is get a knife here, and I'm going to slice off each end just so that the juice can come out. And then I'm going to cut it in half, open it up, and I'm going to put a few slits in and put salt over those halves. Now, I think it's going to be easier to pack in because then the shape changes. You've got a flat edge. And when you're putting it into a jar, you can then use a wooden, I've got a wooden thing or a plastic thing you can use to really hammer it down so that you can pack them together. So that's what I've decided to do, because I don't want to add anything to it. I just want salted lemons. And this is food medicine. You know, Mum told me that when she was little and anyone had any sort of problem, cough, feeling tired or anything, one of these lemons would come out and they'd be fed one of these lemons, which you could actually eat with the skin, and they'd be fine after a day or two. But of course, they're also very, very good as flavourings in curries and stews and soups over the winter. In tagines, the Moroccans use these lemons a lot, as you know. We use them if we're going to make something that has a little bit of sour dye to it. You can add a lemon. My mouth is watering. I actually just like eating them neat like that with salt on. But when they're fermented the way we're going to do, the actual nutritional integrity of that lemon is just something. I mean, you've got the beautiful bacteria that are in there naturally that you're actually putting into your microbiome. So what's not to like in this? And it's so easy to do. You've just got to spend less time on rubbish like watching telly and being on this screen, and more time actually living in alignment with nature's principles. When you do that, life becomes more meaningful, and you'll have a whole home full of different types of food medicines, because you'll understand the importance of real food. This is so important. It's the mindset behind it. So that's what I'm going to do. So I hope that's helped. I'm going to get a knife, chop off the ends. Remember, I've washed and these are properly dried. Cut it in half this way. And I'm going to put salt down at the bottom first. So I'm going to throw these salt granules down the bottom. And then when I open these up, I'll make little slits, and then I'll put ground salt. I'll just take a little spoon or my fingers and throw the salt over them. I'm not going to do that now. This is not what this channel is about. It's not a cooking channel. It's a way of life and thinking channel. So I'm sure you guys can do that yourself. And check videos out on YouTube. In half, split it up, salt in there, put that in, and use some kind of a tool. See if I can kind of show you what I'm going to, like this, to literally batter it in, batter it in. There's so many like this. I've got this, which came off something. This is great. So like a long stick. I keep all sorts of things. And what I can do here is then just squash, keep this dry, squash the lemon in until it's squashed all the way up. And then you really want to get the juice out. Now, you really want then the juice. It's just like making sauerkraut. You want the lemon juice to be over the lemons. And if it isn't, I would get some other lemons and squeeze so that you've got the liquid over the squashed lemons, and then put the lid on and seal it properly. And before I do that, these jars, I've washed and dried them, and I'm going to sterilize them in the oven. So that, and I think I'll only need this one because I'm really going to squash them down, but I'll show you the finished product on a short. Now, just want to explain, in the last video I explained I'm just going to put stories up on Instagram. What I have recognised and realised, which I didn't know before, that shorts are videos, but Instagram, if I can put photos up on Instagram. I wasn't able to put photos up on YouTube Shorts, and then I realised you're not actually meant to put photos up. That's why I couldn't do it. And I thought there was a dysfunction in my mind and not understanding. See, this is how unfamiliar I am with technology, and I'm really grateful and happy and proud to be able to say that in many ways. Okay, so that's with the lemons. Now, the other thing I want to show you, plums. Believe it or not, my squirrels had started to get them. They've eaten all the peaches. So I've actually harvested most of the plums, and I don't want to make any more jam. I've made like 8 pots of the other jam that I made with damsons, and I've decided I'm going to freeze some of them. So I chopped the plums, took the pith out, and obviously washed them and chopped them, and then I put them in the freezer to like this in pieces with a piece of cling film. Now they're frozen, I'm going to pop them into, after this video, into a big food bag, and they can be used for anything in cooking. You can make beautiful plum cakes with them, you know, those upside down cakes, plum puddings, oh my god. You can make coulis with them. There's so much you can do with plums, you know, plum puddings, all sorts of things. So you can even use them in cooking if you want to, but that's what I'm going to do with all the excess plums, not make any more jams because I've got too many jams. Right, cucumbers. Harvested quite a few cucumbers now, 5 or 6. These are beautiful heirloom, heritage, organic cucumbers. I'll eat these. I've shared some with the family as well, and that's important. And the fruit flies are all over the place in my house. It's very annoying. I try to keep all the fruit covered, but they're there anyway. Right, now I'm going to show you here. See, now I was going through all the tomato plants and staking them up, and this fell off. Now, if you have tomatoes, you see how they grow in trusses. Let me just get it into the light. See the trusses? How beautiful. You'll find the tomatoes at the top ripen and the ones at the bottom. Anyway, these fell off. Now, it doesn't matter. All you do is put these out in the sun, and these green tomatoes will ripen. The other thing you can do, which a friend of mine who's a chef told me a couple of years ago, he said you can take these tomatoes and you can pickle them. Pickle raw green tomatoes, and I might do that. I've just remembered while I'm talking to you, because I've got quite a few here. See? So I may well pickle these unripe tomatoes. That is a very good idea. A few more plums that I've picked up from the tree this morning. I was racing the squirrel to them. Now, coming back out here, remember those big onions? I just want to show you the size of this onion. It's a Bedfordshire champion onion. Look at this size. Look at my hand. Look, it's massive. I have taken it off because if you see, this neck fell, and it was like that for a week or so. We've got a stretch of warm weather now, so I want to use the sun and the heat and the warm weather to dry these off. If you look at these other ones, which are more of a normal size, they've dried off in the sun. Oh god, it smells beautiful. And you can see how these are dry. And what you can then do, I've seen it in videos where they then hang these upside down, like they hang these like this, and they stay dry and hanging. I might do that. These become like ropes. It's great. This is the earlier jar that I made, which is still cooking in the sun. I just put it out every day. It's going to taste amazing when we eat it. And finally, I just want to show you the last 2 days, Sunday and Monday, bank holiday. I had my friend Ian over, who's a builder and a maintenance guy, does everything. So skilled. That skill, the skill to be able to build and to a carpenter, and the strength and the health. And I just ask for anything and he comes up with ideas and gets them done. And I'm with him helping because I want to learn. That is real skill. He is now nearly 50 years old and he looks about 30. Honestly, when I look at his body, it's just pure muscle. And that's how men used to be once upon a time, before the whole Industrial Revolution, and we have not only emasculated men from a bodily, physical perspective, but also mentally, with all this pornographic filth that's out there, and now you've got the reality filth in all these influences. I mean, I'll talk about that in a moment when I talk about frequency, but that is real. He did. I had a whole coop here, so the whole thing was removed, and we've stored all of that round the back of the barn, and now I've got all this space here to grow as well. But I've still got, just share with you, my original, the initial chicken coop that was built, this small area here, if you can see. Can you see? And the area inside, which I'm also going to knock down. You can't see it well. Yes, you can. There you go. And that's a whole inside chicken area. No longer keeping chickens. I've done this now for 5 years. I've gained incredible experience. And I know now how to look after chickens. I know the pitfalls. The reason they're gone is very metaphoric and symbolic, but basically they started to die from these horrible red mites or wood mites that are inside. And albeit I tried very, very hard to help them by using all the protocols that I could use, I don't think they were working. They didn't look very happy, so I gave them away. 2 died, and my father had to do the deed because I can see they were not well. So 2 of them were dispatched that way, and the others I gave away, which was the right thing to do. And it's made me realise, actually, you know, as my dad was saying to me, you know what, they just need space. They really need space. And these things, they were parasites that come in and suck on your lifeblood. There's something very symbolic there, and some of you will know what I'm talking about. Recently, when I have gone through the experience I had, I don't want to make it sound like I've gone through anything terrible. I haven't, nothing I can't handle, but that was a parasitic setup as well. And it's no accident that even though my hens have had this last year, I fixed it very quickly. This year I couldn't. That animals often take on the frequency around the owners that love them. So you'll find that if an owner is suffering from, let's say, cancer, the animal senses it first and takes on that disease, because they're so attached to their owners. They're on the same frequency. I'm talking about frequency in a minute, as their owners. And it's so sad. It's such a warning sign as well. Many of you know cats, for example, who are fully aware when somebody's about to die. They'll sit on the end of the bed, highly linked to source, their source connection. They don't have the mechanical mind like we have. But let's not go into it too deep. Just suffice to say that my hens, I knew immediately what it was related to, and it was not a coincidence, or it was, if you understand the meaning of the word, a coincidence. So I gave the last 2 away to give them the best chance to be happy and away from this parasitic setup that they had around them, in frequency wise and actually literal wise. And then Ian and I, Ian, my friend and I, for the last 2 days, you know, he's painted the entire barn here. These are the jobs that you do in late summer. You prepare for winter. And I sprayed the inside with special insecticide, and then I bleached it and brushed it there, and I got rid of them, and he helped me as well. It was great work. The other thing I want to show out the compost heap with you another time in more detail, but you can see this was very high up. At the end of every summer, Ian comes over, which is what he did. It was like his annual pilgrimage for this job. He comes over regularly all the time, but what he did here, what we did together, we took off the first 2/3 of the compost heap, and underneath was this beautiful, wonderful compost, soil compost that's created. It just amazes me that home organic matter, chicken manure, and you know, grass clippings and plant clippings create this. Obviously, you have to understand the chemistry behind how to create a compost heap with carbon and nitrogen and water and other bits and pieces, but mine just, I don't know how it does it, but it just seems to just form beautifully. And effort was required, and it was back-breaking work, but we did it, and it was great satisfaction after it's done. Because now, what is, first of all, you need to understand that the energy and the frequency behind my gardening and what I put in there is all part of this compost, which is then going to form the food for next year's crop. And that's very powerful, especially if you're living from nature's principles and nature's frequency. So I'm going to cover this with some kind of tarpaulin or cloth tarpaulin over winter, so it stays. Lots of thousands of things crawling everywhere, worms and so on, so I need to keep it really moist so it stays like that. And the other thing I want to see, where I planted the green manure, those who watched the video 4 or 5 days ago, I said I was going to plant green manure everywhere, and I've done it. Look how fast it's grown. It's been 5 days, and look how it's growing. Now I can still plant other things in here if I want to, but I'm just doing this for now because it fixes nitrogen into the soil. So in those pots, I've also done it here. You can see a whole area here, and I am going to do it all over wherever there's bare soil, and there's lots here. Lots of bare soil. Right, now the other thing I want to share with you, oops, keep hitting my head on the washing line. I think some of you may have seen this. Let me just turn this around. This is one of those baskets that you would use in the bathroom to store things, but I've used it as a seed basket. And because I grow my food in a biodynamic fashion with the lunar rhythm, you have to watch some of my earlier videos, I can explain that. I split them up into leaf, root, flower and fruit. That's kind of on the other side. And the lunar day would, and whether it's a waning moon or a waxing moon, which is going from nothing to full, or waning from full back down to a new moon, the energy and the energy of the waters of our being, the waters in the environment, have a major effect. And much more than that, there's also constellations. You have to do your homework on astrology and astronomy and Rudolf Steiner, and understand how our ancestors used to live on the land using the sun and the moon cycles. And I'm sure there's a lot more to it that I don't know, but since I've been using and planting and growing this way, magical things have happened, and that's experiential. Not least that the crops just thrive. We thrive. I feel I'm thriving, and not just thriving in my bodily health. Not always. Sometimes I do eat the wrong things, but it's my mind. My mind has become very... There's like a vibration that's going on that's happened over a period of time. And that leads me beautifully to talking about frequency. Oh, hang on. Let me finish this conversation. Taken out some seeds. It was a root day yesterday, and I think it was this morning. And what I've done is I've already split these up into seeds, which I know I can sow in August, September. And so for here, for example, I've got this perennial asparagus, which is August, September sowing in the greenhouse. I'll do that. Beet leaf, you can sow from March to August. Well, I'm going to sow some now. I know we're late August, but it doesn't matter. You don't have to be exact. Real Seed Company. These are all organic, and some of them are heritage heirloom. This is mustard greens. I mentioned that in a previous video. You actually sow these August, September, October. I can't wait to do this. This will go straight into the beds. Garlic mustard. This is for the leaves. It's a herb. September. Wild garlic. In August. This is for the leaves again. And then I've got this giant leaf spinach, which actually did really well. And you can sow it again in September. Okay. I'm going to do the same for my leaf. Well, this is leaf and root. But I'm going to have a look at the seeds I've got for my fruit and flower. Do exactly the same. So what is it I wanted to talk to you about? What I wanted to talk to you about was frequency. So let me just sit down for a minute so I can get my mind into gear. Right, okay. So, look, I can tell you we are living through extraordinary times at the moment, and I know many of you will know what I'm talking about. With the information age and the stuff that's coming in, nobody knows who to trust, what to believe, what not to believe. The American elections is just crazy stuff going on. There are people I know who are so aware of the nonsense of media who've suddenly, it's like they've hopped onto a different timeline and they're all, yes, John F. Kennedy and Trump and so on. And I'm like, what are you doing? When you learn to be an observer and take a step back and realise that everything you're seeing is drama and it's been